But hey, in other news, it's all right because there's been a crackdown on illegal workers and a government TikTok account that's been launched to try and scare off the people traffickers. OK, meanwhile, a poll, get this, says that 82% of people teaching our kids align themselves with a liberal left. Give me strength. All of that and a whole lot more. My panel tonight, pollster and academic Matt Goodwin. Alongside him, I've got the Labour peer, Steve McCabe. But before we get stuck in, let's give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Thank you very much indeed, Michelle. Good evening to you. Our headlines. Donald Trump has told Iranian anti-government protesters help is on the way and has urged them to continue demonstrations despite a deadly crackdown. The US president told Iranians to take over their institutions and save the names of killers and abusers, promising those people will pay a big price. The US president, who has recently floated the possibility of military intervention in the country, has cancelled meetings with all Iranian officials until the killing stops. Around 2,000 demonstrators are feared dead as a result of the government's crackdown. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper has summoned the Iranian ambassador to the UK. She's also announced fresh sanctions against the regime, saying the UK condemns the killing of protesters in the strongest possible terms.
The United Kingdom condemns in the strongest of terms the horrendous and brutal killing of Iranian protesters, and we demand that the Iranian authorities respect the fundamental rights and freedoms of their citizens.
The Home Office says an increase in immigration enforcement raids will act as a deterrent to migrants from working illegally in the UK. The government says the raids are now at the highest ever level, with more than 17,000 carried out against what it has described as dodgy businesses. The Conservatives, though, say Labour are to blame for the boom in illegal working. But Immigration Minister Alex Norris says the raids are part of a wider set of reforms.
We're reducing the protection time for individuals who come here seeking sanctuary. We are lengthening the path to settlement for people who come illegally to 20 years. We are stopping and preventing, with our work with France, crossings, some 22,000 crossings prevented, and then we're really stepping up our removals activity.
An investigation's been launched into South East Water as thousands of households in Kent and East Sussex remain cut off for a fourth day. The company is handing out bottles at water stations like this one in East Grinstead, blaming the impact of Storm Goretti and a power cut at its pumping plant. South East Water's apologised. It says customers should see supplies back on Tuesday or Wednesday, but can't give an exact timeline. The BBC's moving to have Donald Trump's $5 billion lawsuit for defamation thrown out before it reaches trial. Court filings show the broadcaster will argue the Florida court has no jurisdiction and that the Panorama programme didn't defame the president or cause him harm. The BBC admits the edit was misleading, but says Mr Trump was re-elected after it aired, undercutting any claim of damage. So Keir Starmer's warned X if it can't control its AI tool Grok, the government will, threatening to strip the platform of its right to self-regulate. Media watchdog Ofcom's launched an urgent investigation into claims the chatbot is being used to create sexualised images of women and children. Lord Peter Mandelson's issued a personal apology to the victims of Jeffrey Epstein for continuing a friendship with him after his conviction in 2008. Mr Mandelson said, "I was wrong to believe him and I apologise unequivocally to the women and girls who suffered." Mr Mandelson had earlier refused to apologise to the victims in his first interview since his sacking as ambassador to the US on Sunday. And ministers are set to revive the cancelled Birmingham to Manchester leg of HS2 as part of a major new rail plan for the north. Labour will announce a reboot of Northern Powerhouse Rail with a new high-speed link promised once east to west lines are delivered. It comes after Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak scrapped the original route, leaving the West Coast Main Line under pressure. Those are your headlines. Now it's back to Michelle.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you very much for that, Aaron. Gosh, those stories in those bulletins. That Mandelson one there, how ridiculous is that? You will have seen the interview that he did at the weekend where he refused to apologise. Now you fast forward something like 48 hours later and he's full of apologies. How do we take people like that seriously? And as for that water, 4 days with no water in 2026. Are you in one of those areas affected? Do tell me how you are finding that. I imagine not very pleasant indeed. I am Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co with you till 7, alongside me, pollster, academic and GB News presenter Matt Goodwin. Alongside him, Labour peer Steve McCabe. Gents, you're very welcome tonight. As, of course, each and every single one of you at home, do tell me what is on your mind this evening. There is so much that we need to discuss. Matters here in this country. I want to talk to you about teaching staff. 82% of them saying that they are liberal lefties. What do you think the impact of that is going to be on our children, on your grandchildren? Do you get concerned about that stuff or not? I also want to talk to you about migration crackdowns and illegal working crackdowns. But look, I must start with quite important and urgent matters. You will have seen the situation in Iran. Of course, it's been unfolding now, this latest iteration of it now since late December. And we've seen quite a few escalations now along the way. It's been reported, suggested, alleged that thousands of protesters now have been killed. You will have seen the warnings from Donald Trump. He has been urging the Iranian regime not to harm its protesters. Well, now he's hit out and he said it. Iranian patriots, keep protesting. Take over your institutions, save the name of the killers and the abusers. They will pay a big price. I've cancelled all meetings with the Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters stops. Help is on its way. MIGA, he says, obviously make Iran great again, signed off President Donald J. Trump. Well, Yvette Cooper, she's also been talking tough about this in the Commons today. Take a listen.
United Kingdom condemns in the strongest of terms the horrendous and brutal killing of Iranian protesters, and we demand that the Iranian authorities respect the fundamental rights and freedoms of their citizens. And today, as the further reports have come through, the Minister for the Middle East, at my instruction, has summoned the Iranian ambassador to underline the gravity of this moment and to call Iran to answer for the horrific reports that we are hearing.
And of course, yesterday, didn't we? We saw Nigel Farage at the addressing the protesters. Take a listen.
Freedom fighters, this time, are we going to win? Yes, we are. Many innocent people in every Iranian city right now. But you've got to believe that this is the moment.
Well, I mean, he's talking about the citizens there. It's alleged now that one of those protesters, apparently 26-year-old lad, a shopkeeper, he's apparently ready for hanging. That was his penalty that may or may not occur, taking place tomorrow. Anything can happen, of course. This is the chap in question. Anything can happen in the next 24 hours. Goodness knows what twists and turns will happen. Steve, you are a member of the British Committee for Iran Freedom. This is an issue that is particularly of interest to you. Your thoughts today?
Well, it's a very serious situation. I mean, I think the regime is on the verge of collapse, but I think they'll go down slaughtering people. And I think it's easy for us to, on the sidelines, say this or that should happen. At the end of the day, only the people in Iran can actually get rid of this regime. I don't think military action from externally is an option. I don't think that's what they want. But unless there are some transitional arrangements, if this regime is finally got rid of, then we'll end up with something as bad or worse. So it's very, I think when the President Trump offers help and other people offer help, the help we should be offering is help and assistance for the various groups to come together and have some transitional arrangement that will lead to free, fair and internationally supervised elections. I think that's what we've got to be pressing for.
Well, I mean, all eyes will be on Donald Trump now because, of course, you've had that very unpredictable, unexpected, someone might say, situation in Venezuela. He's talking tough in return and in response. You've got the Iranian regime equally talking tough back to Donald Trump, warning him, if you attack us, basically everything is on the table, whether it's the US bases, ships, you name it, nothing is off the table when it comes to potential attack targets.
Well, I think we have to recognise that Iran has spent, it's squandered its entire income. I think the currency's dropped by about 80% in the last 12 months because all its money is spent on trying to foster wars and disputes in the region and elsewhere and support terrorist action. So there is nothing the Ayatollahs wouldn't resort to. But I think the danger of any external military action is it won't necessarily help the people of Iran. In fact, it may produce casualties there. The people of Iran are undermining. They're going to finish this regime. What they need to know is when it collapses that we will stand by them and help them rebuild.
Matt Goodwin?
Well, the first thing is I think we have to support the Iranian people to find their way to freedom. I completely agree with what Nigel Farage said on this, and I agree with President Trump, and I hope he actually backs up his statements with the support that he's promised. We have to remember the regime in Iran is corrupt, it's revolutionary, it's Islamist, it's bankrolled Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. It's also supported Islamist activism here in the UK. It's gone after dissidents here in the UK. I would like to see people in the Labour government go further by, for example, banning, prescribing the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. I think it is outrageous that this Labour government clamps down on British people for expressing unfashionable views in Westminster online while simultaneously allowing this revolutionary faction to run around our own country at will. And there is a deep hypocrisy within some parts of the left on this, Michelle, and I'm not including Steve in this, but there are people on the left who simultaneously say the Iranian regime should survive because it's the last obstacle to what they would call Western imperialism. So they're willing to overlook the human rights abuses in Iran, which are systemic, and at the same time lecturing the rest of us about what's happening in Gaza relentlessly. And I see a double standard here with people on the left. I think we should be supporting the people of Iran. I think we should be encouraging this regime to collapse because it's in the interests of Western civilization if it does collapse for freedom, liberty, and so on. But we should also be calling out this blatant hypocrisy among some people on the left as well.
But if that regime does collapse then, many questions will be asked about what happens next. How involved do you think the UK should be, if at all, in what happens next?
I'm very instinctively dubious about anything that ends up looking like a forever war, like a Libya, like an Iraq, like an Afghanistan. But I think what will inevitably happen, if Steve's right, I'm sure he'll have thoughts on this too, if the regime collapses, we're going to need an international coalition of some description to manage a transition to whatever comes next. And I hope that we're part of facilitating that. And I think that would be the best way forward.
Martin says, Michelle, at the end of the day, everybody, whether it's people in the media, people in the government, etc., they need to stop slagging off Donald Trump for once and for all and help him to help the Iranian people. If there are people out, at home watching and listening to this, Steve, who are sitting there thinking, why is she talking about Iran? This is GB News, we're in Britain. Why does this matter to us? What would you say to those people?
Well, two reasons. Iran is the key to stability in the Middle East, which has been the source of most of the wars and most of the terrorism we've seen over the last 20-odd years. A peaceful, secular Iran could lead the Middle East. It could lead it in peace and it could lead it in democracy. And, of course, many of the actions, I think Mark just alluded to it, that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard carry out are attempts to carry out terrorist and assassinations on our own backyard in this country, on the streets of London and Birmingham and Manchester. So it's in our interests that we have a peaceful, stable Iran leading the Middle East. And as far as the president's concerned, the things he said about threatening sanctions and tariffs on those who cooperate with the Ayatollahs, he's quite right there. Anything he can offer in the way of support for transitional arrangements is a good idea. I'm simply suggesting that we should be wary of military action in a situation where it won't be that easy to take out simply installations that belong to the Guard or the Ayatollahs, and it does risk Iranian casualties, and that's the last thing the Iranian people need right this minute. They're being slaughtered by their own side. They don't need any more difficulty.
We don't really know the true picture yet as well, because they keep taking connectivity down, don't they, in that region. What do you think to Matt's point about when he was talking about prescribing the IRGC?
Yeah, well, I totally agree. I mean, successive governments have said that they're going to prescribe it, and then they always seem to find a way to back off. I mean,
why?
I really don't know.
Well, the argument from security, and I don't mean to cut you off, but the argument from security services would be that the Revolutionary Guard is part of the Iranian state, and per se we don't ban parts of other states, but we also know it's been complicit in encouraging attacks against Western nations.
Yeah.
So, you know, at what point do you draw the line? It's a bit, you know.
Well, I think that is the point, and I'm sure that is part of the argument that our own security services. I personally wonder if they're exerting too much influence on governments over this. But once these people are organising attacks and terrorist episodes in our country, then I think they forfeit that right. I think we should ban them. To be fair, the government has actually imposed pretty heavy sanctions on them. I think the Minister said today there's about 500 members of the top of the Guard are banned from coming to this country. Their assets have been frozen. But we should do more, and a ban's obvious.
Well, there you go. I'm sure many of you will have very strong opinions on that at home. Do get in touch and tell me what you think. Speaking of strange goings-on, I can tell you, answer me this simple question. Do you think the Chinese should have a super embassy in this country spanning over 5 acres? And get this, a newspaper today managed to uncover the fact that at the bottom, underneath this embassy, they've got plans to have secret chambers literally a metre away from critical infrastructure here in the city of London. What's taking the government so long to tell them no thank you?
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewbs, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Brave.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless.
I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, welcome back to Dewbs & Co. With me, Michelle Dewberry, keeping you company until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, I've got Matt Goodwin and Steve McCabe. Now, this really caught my eye today, the front page of the Daily Telegraph. I shall hold it up for you. There you go. I mean, look at this. Huge, dominating headline. Hang on, I think I peeked too early removing it from you there. Huge, dominating headline, China Embassy's secret threat to the city. Now, this is staggering. You will have all followed the twists and turns of this story. So China basically bought this site, essentially in the City of London, so opposite the Tower Bridge, Tower of London, that kind of place, in case you're not too familiar with where we're talking about. The Telegraph have managed to get hold of some unredacted plans which show that China, they're trying to create what people are calling a mega embassy, a super embassy, and it would appear that there's a whole basement floor that was previously redacted out of the plans that have been made publicly available. And I'm showing you some of these on the screen now. It essentially has another 200 and odd rooms. One of these rooms, it's like some kind of secret chamber. Now, why this is significant is because you've got critical infrastructure running right alongside this building, about a metre away from one of the walls. It's transpired now that the Chinese would want to essentially knock down, put all kinds of heat extraction equipment in that room. So now serious questions are being asked. Keir Starmer, of course, travelling to Beijing very soon. It's imagined that he's going to give the nod to this embassy before he does that on the 20th of January. Do you think Keir Starmer should be approving this, Steve?
No, I don't, is the short answer. I mean, this has been going on for nearly 10 years now, and there's been arguments back and forward. I mean, the climate's changed, obviously, not that long ago. The government of the day thought it was a good idea for the Chinese to build their nuclear power stations and to run our telephones and communications businesses. So, you know, things have changed, but I think this is too big a risk. I think everybody knows it's too big a risk. I fear the government thinks it's running out of options and may actually approve it, but I think if they do, it will be a dreadful mistake. It reminds me of something out of one of those James Bond movies where they look up the periscope into the other embassy. You know, this is just out of control, and we should just tell them it's either the wrong location and the wrong design, and they need to move it somewhere else.
Matt?
Well, here's a thought experiment. Let's imagine the UK planned to open the largest embassy, a super embassy, in the heart of Beijing, a metre away from critical financial infrastructure, from communication channels linking the entire financial sector in China. And this embassy would have secret rooms and bunkers, and nobody would really know what's going on, least of all the Chinese. What on earth do we think Beijing would say about that? And secondly, here's a different thought experiment for Keir Starmer. Let's imagine Nigel Farage was Prime Minister and was signing off on a super embassy for Russia, which included secret bunkers and potentially access to communication channels in the heart of London. What on earth would Keir Starmer and the Labour government be saying right now? What this plan is going to do, once again, at the expense of the British people watching this show at home, is it's going to help our enemies. It's going to embed them into our infrastructure, embed them into our society, embed them into our culture, giving them access potentially to highly sensitive information, and it flies completely at odds with the whole idea of national security. Of course, this embassy shouldn't be allowed. This embassy should not be allowed.
You, Matt. I totally agree with that. But as I'm pointing out, it's not that long ago that the Prime Minister of this country, Theresa May, and David Cameron were saying, well, it's all right, let them build their nuclear power stations, let them run our telecommunications. Steve, this is on the back of what they started.
Steve, as you know,
the mess we've ended up with.
As you know, I'm the last person in this country to defend the Tories. Anybody within Westminster who has taken the view, mistakenly, that China is an ally, when we all know China is a threat, I think needs their head examining. Let's not forget, too, you know, Keir Starmer doesn't seem to be mentioning anything about this. The Chinese are terrorising Hong Kong, terrorising Taiwan, they're terrorising minorities in their own country, they're terrorising dissidents here in the UK. Now, international human rights lawyer Keir Starmer, he's gone strangely mute on this shocking example. Apparently, it's fine for a human rights abusing regime to set up shop in the heart of London next to our critical infrastructure. Now, you have to ask the question, Steve, why? And I'm going to put out a hypothesis. At every turn, Keir Starmer, since becoming Prime Minister, has sided with people who hate our country at the expense of people who love our country.
I think that, if you don't mind me saying so, I think that's a bit absurd. It's inevitable that a country like Britain has to try and have some kind of constructive relationship with China. It would be absurd to have any other
Give them a normal embassy, Steve.
But well, that's what I was about to say to you. There is no need to bend over backwards to accommodate them over this issue. And I personally hope that Keir will weigh this up and decide it would be better to suffer the chagrin of the Chinese than to suffer the risk that this poses.
I tell you what I think should be happening in this country. The Chinese should be offered a bog-standard embassy, like everybody else. The Chinese-aligned Confucius institutes in our universities should be shut down because they are arguably being used, allegedly being used to spy on their own students here in UK universities. China and other foreign powers who are hostile to our interests should be kicked out of our national security and energy infrastructure. It's absurd to me that we have national democratically elected politicians in this country, both Tory and Labour, who have invited in our enemies to take control of key parts of our national infrastructure. That is just absurd to me.
Well, I think what was the leader of Reform in Wales trying to do when he was facilitating the Russian support?
Steve, I've absolutely... Anybody
you make it an issue about Labour and Conservative. Reform have got to explain what they were up to, Steve, when the guy in Wales was pocketing the Russian money against their interests.
And rightly, that individual went to prison.
You're on about Nathan Gill,
Went to prison. That individual, Nathan Gill, went to prison. And I'm not, you know, anybody who sides with our enemies, I'm, you know, chuck them into prison, do whatever. But the point here is Keir Starmer has a choice. Like, he had a choice over Chagos. You know, he's had a choice over prescribing the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, as we were discussing. He had a choice over prescribing Muslim Brotherhood. You know, at every point he's had a choice, he's backed off and he's sided with people who are specifically focused at undermining, if not destroying, our country. And there's a pattern with Starmer and, by the way, Lord Hermer. There is a pattern with these guys that at each and every turn they side with the bad guys.
There's no evidence over Chagos, if you want to pick that up as an example, that that wasn't actually flavour of the month until it was a Labour government that concluded the deal. Everybody was happy about it until all of a sudden it was Keir Starmer's government. Had it gone through under the previous government, there would have been barely a peep. And the Americans are still not opposing it at the moment.
Even tonight, Labour MPs over in Westminster are kicking off about this super embassy for China, and you're here saying you oppose it too. Yes. So why on earth is Starmer going to sign off on it?
Well, he hasn't yet. We are assuming he will. I hope he will.
The assumption across much of media today is he will.
But, I mean, why it's even got this far just beggars belief.
Yeah.
Because all you need to do is just have a single brain cell and you can weigh up, is this a potential risk? Is this a good idea? My 5-year-old could probably pipe up and say, actually, Mummy, guess what? This sounds really silly. So the question that I would put to everybody is, why is it even been allowed to progress to this point? As Steve says, this, of course, has gone on for years. They acquired this site years and years ago. It should have been nipped in the bud a long time ago.
Well, we're on our 5th Prime Minister since it could have been nipped in the bud.
Yeah, but this has been, the can has been kicked down the road with this particular government multiple times now. They could have picked this up straight off the bat on day one, looked at it, which would have taken a few minutes to look at, and gone, actually, no. The fact it takes a newspaper to get this unredacted information and bring it to the public's attention is absolutely staggering. Anyway, I'll tell you what else is staggering. The amount of people that work in this country illegally. The government reckon that they are clamping down on that. And get this, 82% of the people that are involved in teaching your kids, your grandchildren, say that they identify as liberal leftists. Do you think this is a problem or not?
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. If you're heading away for some winter sun, there's plenty of sunny weather across the Mediterranean, into Spain and Portugal, some wet weather through the rest of this week, but plenty of sunshine for parts of the Mediterranean, particularly into Greece. A risk of showers for Italy, parts of Croatia as well through this week, but it's Spain and Portugal that's seeing the particularly wet weather through the rest of this week. Slightly fresher feel for the Canary Islands on Wednesday, but it does look like temperatures come up more closer to those 19-20 degrees by the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather forecast coming to you from the Met Office. As today's rain clears away, we're going to have a chilly night because of largely clear skies. We're dragging in colder air from the northwest now, and that's why with those clear skies we're really going to see temperatures plummeting overnight. Most places will be dry, just a bit of cloud, a little bit of rain clinging on, lingering in parts of the far southeast, and a fair few showers, which could be a wintry mix, some sleet, some snow mixed in across parts of Scotland. As I mentioned, it's turning chilly though, temperatures widely dropping to around, if not a little bit below freezing, so plenty of frost around. There could be some pockets of mist and fog, freezing fog across some parts of the south, and do watch out for some icy stretches as well. With these showers coming in, falling on frozen surfaces, well, it is going to lead to some pretty slippery surfaces. As we go through tomorrow morning then, a bright start to the day for many, just the cloudy, showery picture across western Scotland and a bit of cloud building across western Northern Ireland. Otherwise, plenty of sunshine. Just worth noting, any fog or freezing fog that does develop across those southern areas could take a little while to clear. Then as we go through the day, the sunshine is going to get a bit weaker. The clouds going to build for many places, particularly across the far south, where we'll have cloud thickening and some outbreaks of rain pushing in, but also across western parts of Scotland and also Northern Ireland as a band pushes in as well. Temperatures will be markedly lower than today, most places only getting maxima in the mid-single figures Celsius. Then, as we go into Thursday, potential for some very wet and windy weather to sweep up from the south, particularly affecting England, but perhaps Wales as well. Some uncertainty about the position and intensity of this. Further north, staying with a mixture of bright sunny spells, but also some wintry showers. A mixed picture then as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend, staying a bit colder towards the north. Bye-bye.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the M8 westbound, traffic is restricted between Junction 2 and Junction 3 after a collision. In Northamptonshire, the M1 southbound has a broken down vehicle on the exit slip at Junction 42 with one lane closed. Also on the M1 southbound between Junction 16 and Junction 15A, one lane is shut after a crash. Around Solihull, the M6 northbound between Junction 4 and Junction 4A is slow. And on the trains, Great Western Railway has no trains between Par and Newquay, with road transport between Liscard and Looe, while London Overground has disruption via West Croydon, Crystal Palace and Sydenham and Mildmay line services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Hello. Hello there, welcome back to Dewbs & Co. with me, Michelle Dewberry, Steve McCabe and Matt Goodwin alongside me. Now, ladies and gents, this doesn't happen very often, so brace yourselves because I might, just might, have a little bit of good news for you, something that's just literally broken not that long ago. You know the very, very unpopular proposals to have mandatory digital ID. This was a bit of a passion project, shall we say, for Keir Starmer. Well, now, if rumours are to be believed, conversations are taking place at a senior level to actually remove the mandatory aspect of this proposal. So instead of people being forced to have digital ID to prove their right to work in this country, it would perhaps now be moving to be an optional aspect. I mean, don't get me wrong, by the way, I still think the whole thing of digital ID is ridiculous anyway, so I don't support any of it. But notwithstanding that, lots of people, Steve McCabe, will think two things right now. Firstly, they will think, fabulous. If this happens, it's a step in the right direction. Secondly, they will think your government is an absolute shambles, because I've lost track now of what number U-turn this will be, if indeed it happens.
Well, first of all, I'm a fan of digital ID, and I think eventually we will end up with digital ID in this country. What is being proposed, if it's in fact accurate, is that the employment element that you referred to has been taken out. And that was because a lot of business organisations and employers said it would make life too complicated for them. Now, you know, if the government won't change its mind,
Michelle,
it's not
a popular policy.
No, but if the government won't change its mind, we're told they're stubborn and they won't listen and they're intransigent. If the government changes its mind, it's another U-turn. I mean, you can't have it both ways.
Steve McCabe, you can't say that with a straight face. Sure, if a government casually changes its mind, if they get new information and change their position, you know, chapeau to you, respect.
Well, we don't know if they've changed their mind. We're reporting what might happen here.
Your government is ping-ponging. If you imagine a little, what do they call those, pinball machines? Your government is like one of those balls, ricocheting left to right, spinning around all over the place. You don't know what you're doing.
I absolutely disagree with that. This has been a controversial issue. It wasn't in the manifesto. Various groups objected to it, and now it's been suggested they're looking at it again.
Before you started introducing it, you knew all that. Matt Goodwin.
Just to provide some more context for this, what's actually breaking, so the government, remember, previously said digital ID would be mandatory for right-to-work checks from the year 2029. This could now be introduced as optional. Now, one Labour MP told the Politics Home website this evening, it is hard to find a backbench Labour MP who will advocate for mandatory compulsory digital ID in public or a minister who will defend it in private. And that, in essence, says everything you need to know. Labour came into this, remember, this was never in Labour's manifesto. They just kind of pulled it out of the hat and said, well, we're going to, like typical Labour politics, we're going to impose this measure on everybody else. Despite never even putting it in the manifesto. Hang on, Steve. Despite never even putting it in the manifesto, they looked at the polling and thought, oh, actually, this isn't as clear-cut. Looks like lots of people don't like this. Then everyone hit social media from Nigel Farage onwards saying, well, I'm not going to comply with this. And by the way, I also said that. And I think they then saw this is just going to be mass civil resistance to an authoritarian regime
It wasn't pulled out of thin air.
Nobody ever voted for to begin with.
It was a measure that was considered in the context of illegal working. That's what it was looked at.
If you're breaking into the country illegally and you're already in the black economy, you're not going to get caught by a digital ID check.
It was a measure that was looked at in the context of illegal working.
Was it in the manifesto?
No, it wasn't.
Right, that's not how we do democracy in this country.
Well,
we put the things in front of the people and then they vote for that. What we don't do is we don't run off to the Blairite Institute, right, the little Tony Blair's Institute, and we say, Tony, without any democratic mandate, what can we put on top of the British people?
That if governments only put forward what was in their manifesto, we'd have very little government. Maybe it would be a good thing.
13 U-turns. I tell you what, though, this government is shambolic, it is inconsistent, it is collapsing in the polls. I think this government will not get to the end of this year. We need a general election now. We need Keir Starmer out of number 10.
Now the Conservative Party, Mark II, if they take on any more Conservative refugees, there won't be a Reform Party.
It looks ridiculous to the country, to the voters, to the electorate. This whole show looks ridiculous. Starmer, remember, we were told, he'd be the adult in the room. We'd be back to responsible, stable leadership. 13 U-turns. They've barely been in office for a little over, what, 14, 15 months. It's a complete
one man's
sham.
U-turn is another man's considered change of opinion.
I know, but right, let me ask you honestly, do you not feel a little bit embarrassed by the way that the current government is performing?
No, I don't. I think all governments
Honestly?
Honestly, I don't sense that at all. I have seen just as many things happen in governments of all shades in the past. I don't see that at all. I see a government that inherited a torrid state of affairs from its predecessors and has done its level best in some very difficult circumstances to weave a path. Some of its communications have been really poor, and I'd be the first to acknowledge that. But I don't actually criticise them for having a change of mind if they've realised that something isn't worth the candle.
But this is what I don't understand, and I'm not a politician, so I shall bow down to your experience. But when you're saying, you know what, they've changed their mind because now they've realised that it's not worth the candle or whatever you said, my pushback to that would be, why didn't you realise that in advance? Because you must have known that some of these things were not going to go down well, that were not going to be easy to achieve, that were the wrong priorities and all the rest of it. You look weak, you look shambolic, you look weak, you look unprepared, you look disorganised, and you look like you're failing the country that you're supposed to be governing properly.
Well, the penalty of being part of a democratic structure is that different currents run and different ideas emerge. Obviously, in a dictatorship, you don't have this problem.
It don't wash with me saying that all of this was all about trying to clamp down on illegal working, because already migrants need like a share code and stuff like that. So it's just, no. Does it wash with you?
No, it doesn't. What this government has been all about from day one has been authoritarian progressivism. And what I mean by that is a government that instinctively reaches, whenever there's a problem, whenever there's a challenge, to try and shut down and narrow the public square, to try and keep people under surveillance, to try and manage democracy rather than to let democracy breathe. We saw it after Southport. We've seen it with the anti-Muslim or Islamophobia definition. We've seen it with the expansion of non-crime hate incidents, which even the police have now said are ridiculous. We've seen it with Keir Starmer branding everybody far right. We've seen it with the government and the police throwing into prison pensioners for sharing their views on social media. And we've seen it in the push for digital ID. This is classic authoritarian progressivism. They cannot win the arguments in the country. They cannot bring the people over to their side of the debate. So they try and control the people. They try and manage the people, except they mess with the wrong people. These are the islands, remember, that created liberty. The history of England is the history of liberty. That's what Macaulay said. And the British people and the English people are never going to stand for and tolerate this kind of authoritarianism.
Final word to you.
The only thing you're missing there is... Well, I'm afraid, look, I accept that is your view of the Labour government, and it was probably your view 1 minute after Labour won the election. I accept that, and that is the kind of politics that you support. I understand that. I personally think that is a complete load of nonsense. I think most of the things you refer to are things that happened before this government was ever elected. Your issues about people being put in prison, I'm afraid it is true. And of course there will be, of course there are casualties. Sometimes when you have things like Palestinian Solidarity Action, you end up with people going to prison, and if they go on hunger strike, too bad.
Everybody can see what they can see. Everybody out there knows what I'm talking about.
Well, you've got eyes, you've got ears, and you've got your own minds. That's what I like about you. Like, you'll have very strong opinions on all of that. What do you think to that next latest potential U-turn? Would you support that or not? You know the drill on Dewbs & Co. It is always about you guys as well, and you can have your say on all of this and a lot more. You could become a friend of GB News and get this, ladies and gents, for a limited time. You could win one of 50,000 GB News bumper stickers. Take a look.
Becoming a friend of GB News is free. It lets you have your say and be part of our shows every day on TV and radio. Plus, if you sign up by January 31st, you could win one of 50,000 limited edition GB News bumper stickers. To become a friend and for your chance to win, go to gbnews.com/bumper sticker now or scan the QR code on screen. 18 plus, UK only. Full T&Cs at gbnews.com/terms of use.
There you go. Coming up after the break, much that we need to discuss together. Before I bid you farewell, I need to talk about immigration controls, and also 82% of the people that are teaching your kids, your grandkids, identify as being left-wing. Is that a problem or not? I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here to GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hello everybody, Michelle Dewberry, Matt Goodwin and Steve McCabe with you till 7 o'clock tonight. Lots and lots of you getting in touch tonight. Anne says, what hypocrisy of Yvette Cooper telling Iran to, quote, respect its citizens' rights when she and Labour do not respect ours, she says. Lots of you getting in touch as well about that situation. Kent, Sussex having no water. JD says, how come we have to have no water while the people in charge still get their bonuses? The government should be involving themselves in this, says JD. Richard says, Michelle, when it comes to the Chinese embassy, we are so weak. Why do we do this to ourselves? You could ask that last sentence on so many different subjects, but I can tell you, I can hear your sentiments. And yes, as you would imagine, a lot of people pleased about the potential U-turn coming our way on digital ID. Now, let me just cut to the chase on this. We've all got children, grandchildren, children that we care about. A poll out recently showed that 82% of the people involved in the teaching of these children are going to vote for left, liberal-leaning parties. That caught my eye. Do you think it's something to be concerned about or not, Matt Goodwin?
Well, of course it is. I wrote about this morning. 82% of teachers, according to a survey by the National Education Union, are supporting Liberal left parties. The most popular party among teachers are the Greens, the party that wants open borders, the legalisation of drugs, wealth taxes and more besides. Then come Labour, then come the Lib Dems. Only 16% of teachers support right-wing parties, whether the Tories or Reform, which shows you just how out of touch the teaching profession in this country has become. About 50% of the country, according to the polls today, are planning to vote Conservative or Reform, but only 16% of teachers are. Now, you might say, why does this matter? It matters because of what we've just seen in Bristol, where you have a Jewish Labour MP told that he cannot visit a school in his constituency because he might trigger these radicalised left-wing teachers and activists, and they say it's a safeguarding issue for their students. And also, some people might remember, we still have a teacher in Batley who's still in hiding, largely because the local school threw him under the bus after local, mainly Muslim activists harassed him. This is why I'm deeply concerned about this country, because teachers are the ones who are shaping the values and the aspirations and the outlook of the next generation. And schools, I'm interested in Steve's view, but schools under law should be politically neutral institutions, and I don't think they are anymore.
Steve?
Well, I mean, I'd be interested to see the poll in a bit more detail, to be honest.
There you go, I've got it in my hand.
No, I meant in terms of how the questions were framed. But where I think I do agree with you, Matt, is I'm worried about the leadership of our public sector unions. You know, how individual members are inclined to vote or what they're going to support. Well, you know, that's the same as the general population. But it's the leadership we should be concerned about. We have the leadership of Unison, largest union in the country now, elected on a fragment of the vote. And the first thing she talks about is Israel and Gaza. You know, exactly what that's got to do with working in public services in the UK, I don't know. In Bristol, what went on is ridiculous, and the school leadership should be thoroughly ashamed of themselves.
So they shouldn't be ashamed of themselves, they should be fired.
Well, I'd be happy to see them fired as well. If this was done to appease representatives of the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign, it's an utter disgrace. And I also noticed, actually, that the school claimed they had been, or the college claimed they had been in touch with the police for advice. Well, after what happened in Birmingham with the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, the last people given advice on this, I would say at the moment, should be the police.
But the broader problem for this country is that it isn't just the schools. There was another survey recently by Find Out Now which found 3/4 of people working in taxpayer-funded public institutions in this country, you know, schools, universities, civil service, lean to the political left. Now, what we're seeing in Britain is the institutions are moving over to the left. They're becoming pro-immigration. They're becoming, you know, pro-net zero. They're becoming basically anti-British, saying we're racist and we should be ashamed of our history. Of course, we saw that last week, Michelle, with the news stories about civil servants who said they would quit if Reform win the next election. Now, we see these examples of the institutions becoming openly political, openly biased. At the same time, the British people, they're drifting over to the right on a lot of these issues. They're saying, no, I want control of my borders. I want less immigration. I want a tough position on law and order. So the people who are controlling the institutions are complaining about the rise of Reform and the rise of Nigel Farage and what all of these misinformed voters they tell us are doing, but they won't actually reform the institutions that have become hideously out of touch with the country. And I think that's what we need to fix in Britain. We need to make taxpayer-funded institutions represent the taxpayers in this country.
Sandra says, who cares what the political leanings are of teachers, Michelle? They're there to teach students, not indoctrinate them. Yes, but as Anne points out, at the end of the day, these teachers can't help themselves. There are schools becoming like indoctrination factories. Well, there you go. You can have your good debates about that. Primary schools, when I was looking around primary schools for my little boy, we're talking children aged 4, by the way, I was being met at the door by the teachers, absolutely covered in pride paraphernalia, different badges like this. Sorry, but I really don't think that has that kind of gender ideology and all the rest of it. What business is that in schools, teaching it to 4-year-olds and the like? And then they would tell me that it was all about inclusion. So I said to them, well, where's your disability badge then? And they could never answer me that. Anyway, you'd hate to have me as a parent in your school, I can assure you. Anyway, gents, that's all I've got time for. Thank you very much. Will we see that U-turn on digital ID? Stay tuned. But for now, that's all. Thanks, gents. Have a good night. Night-night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather forecast, coming to you from the Met Office. As today's rain clears away, we're going to have a chilly night because of largely clear skies. We're dragging